Hey, this is Davin with Redline Rebuild. I am sitting in our next project. It's a little new for me. It's a 1980 Rover SD1 that's owned by someone you might know. But where I come in is this engine was designed in the early 60s. So, first thing for us, and yes, I did say us, is to get the engine out. Figure out how to get out of the door. There we go.
With no offense to the Rover, I have to ask, what is the point of a V8 powered, manual transmission, rear wheel drive, sporting saloon that can't do a burnout?
Huh.
Remember, this is 1980 and it was the height of the smog era. And so that Buick 215 was smog choked down to just 133 horsepower. And so my idea was, hey, Davin, let's pull the motor out and could you please not put it back in until it makes twice as much power? And that should be very easy to do, especially because Davin's gonna have to do it by himself.
I got a quick question though for you. What happened back here?
What do you mean?
I mean, this was the side you were working on. And
I think you hit it with the engine hoist, or alternatively, that is a story for a very different episode. However, I will say, thank God I have really, really good insurance.
It always pays, yes.
Anyway, so you have your work cut out for you, because I'm just going to leave.
Oh, nice. All right, well, we'll take care of it.
Thank you.
You're going to take care of this though, right?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, let's race. We'll see if you can get the engine built before the body shop gets the paperclip damage fixed that I did.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Thanks.
Redline Rebuild is powered by Hagerty Marketplace. If you have a cool car to sell, check out HagertyMarketplace.com. It's free to list, and the seller keeps 100% of the hammer price. Support the show and click the link in the description. So here's the deal. Buick produced this motor in '61. And then Rover started building it in '67. But that's a whole bigger detailed conversation. And for right now, we're gonna get into the nuts and bolts of this 1980 Rover fuel injected engine and spread it all over the tables. We're just gonna start taking stuff off and see where it goes. And then obviously as we take things off, we kind of wanna see what the condition of things are. It was a running engine, so that's good. But it did make some noises here and there. And I think I found one of them because this water pump bearing is no good. Let's get this out. Jason said this was hard. This is easy. What's he talking about? Oh. She's a little stuck on there. Well, that's right. I got the hardest part off. I can from the backside. This is the wonkiest looking belt setup. Just, you know. Okay, so this is interesting. There's always like an order of operations to stuff. And this one in particular is difficult even taking apart because we have pieces that you have to take. Like for instance, I cannot get that bolt out to get the power steering pump out of the way unless the pulleys are out of the way. I can break these nuts loose, but these studs are not fastened to the dampener behind it. So I'm not sure how that is gonna work at all. We did manage to get, the fan is partially assembled. So, okay. When you come across a part that's really bad, it's always kind of fun to hear it. So if you can hear this. That made more noise than the exhaust. Not good. All right, well, we'll continue on, but it is definitely a puzzle to take apart. And the puzzle going back together is probably going to be more fun.
That's the easy way to do that. Could we get so lucky?
You don't get lucky every day, but
Nice. Well, that made that a little easier.
all right, so I was all ready to jump off the roof, so to speak, because I was kind of concerned about getting this big thing off of there, because normally they're press fit onto the crankshaft, but this was a slip fit, and it just glided off like nobody's business. Now I can see that the through bolts do make sense in this case. So you have a through bolt going across here to these nuts, so on and so forth, works all right. So I guess what this rolls into is, I've always said I'd rather be lucky than good. Luck's on my side right now. Why don't I just grab a hold of that? I'm betting it probably won't. Top one's out. That didn't raise too big of a problem. But this bottom one, I got a pretty good arm on here, and I don't want to break that off. So I'm going to get the pulley out of my way, and then I'm going to come in here and just cut this head right off that bolt. And then we can address it later. After we're down a little deeper, I can put heat to it a little closer to the actual spot where it's hanging up at. I don't think it's hung up within the timing cover. It could be, but I don't think so. That's the plan.
It wants to.
So, luckily, that bolt head that we cut off, that bolt is not stuck in the block. It's actually just stuck in the water pump. That's why I can't pry it off, but I can see the rust right here. So with that, I'm gonna heat the daylights out of this housing right here, get that to swell up and pry it and get it to slide off that way. So a little bit different way of going about things, but I didn't want to take the risk of breaking that bolt off in the block. So knock the head off, slide the pump off, no big deal until the bolt is rusted into the dissimilar metal of the water pump.
Ah, got it. I won. Look at that. See? Just a little bit of patience. Look at that. Beautiful.
So at this point, I'm going to, I think, attack the intake, and we're gonna separate this. There's an upper and a lower intake. So we'll take the upper intake off, and then we'll take the lower intake off.
Deal. All right, there we go.
All right, so as I mentioned, as I go through a teardown, I always try to pay attention to what the condition is of the engine and not just rambo it apart and hope for the best. So looking here, we have a lot of oil that's leaking out, from the oil pan side of things, right? So if you're underneath the car, you'd see all this oil dripping and be like, oh, my oil pan gasket's bad. Well, you gotta remember, you gotta look all the way up to find where the oil leak's at. And most of it's here on this valve cover. Likewise on the other side of things as well. And then the other thing too, this was using a little oil. Well, you can see it on the intake runners that there's oil in there, and most likely that's from the PCV valve, or at least that system sucking in oil from the intake manifold going down in. So anyhow, oil consumption on the floor. Looks like it's a lot of this from here on both sides. You can see it's collected pretty well. So that's something to pay attention to when I put it all back together, is make sure those seals are done well, and inspect the parts for any kind of warpage.
Man, this head's nice and light. Holy smokes.
All right, well, we have our passenger side cylinder head off, and everything's looking pretty good. You can see it was burning well, so that's cool. Nothing that was blown out or any of that relative to the head gasket. One thing I do see, though, there's something it does not like about this coolant or mixture that's in there. It's kind of turning itself to some crystals. So we'll have to look into that and make sure we don't have any issue. And man, is it nice using some aluminum cylinder heads, because those are light. I like it. Not to mention they're short. Okay, and then over on this side, block side, we have top of our cylinder. And again, here's those great 8.13 to 1 compression ratio pistons. Basically, that volume is going to reduce by a lot when we're done. And the block feels good here. There's no ridge at all. And we'll see what Mikey here has to say about that. And be able to go from there, but we got to get after that other head and continue on. What I want to see before I pull the timing chain off is just to see how the factory lines up the cam to the crankshaft. There's a mark here on the cam side of the gear. And usually there'll be a dot or something to indicate, and maybe it is right here. I see it now. It's right there. Okay. And lastly, a nice little indicator of what I'm looking at. Or at least reminder. This definitely has a cam gear bolt. That one could be replaced. Cam looks pretty good. Well, everything is completely tore apart and spread out on the benches now. Looking over the cylinders and the block in general, it's kind of cool how it's shrunk down quite a bit after we get all the stuff off of it. Cylinders look in really good shape. You can still see crosshatch where the rings have been running, so that's a good indicator that it's not wore out. Lifter bores all look good. The saddles look pretty good. When it comes to the bearings, now I can see where I'll say the oil pump might be getting a little tired, because here's your number 1 bearing that's the closest to the oil pump, and that doesn't look great, but it's not horrible. But then as you move backwards, specifically here to number 4, they shouldn't be gold. That's wearing through some of the top layers and getting into the good stuff, if that makes sense. So it was a good time to change bearings. As far as the crankshaft, though, it doesn't look like it hurt anything. It all looks pretty good. And then as far as pistons assemblies are all look pretty solid. Of course, we're gonna do one major thing. This dish has got to go, because 8.1 compression ratio does not make any power unless you're boosting it. And we're not going to boost it, but we are going to boost compression. And we'll go to some other configuration as far as the compression ratio is concerned. So the top of the piston will change. And we're going to try to get in that ballpark of the upper 9s. So say 9.5 to 10, somewhere in that range. Of course, an aluminum cylinder head is able to take a little more compression and utilize it without spark knock or detonation with the similar, like a 93 octane. One thing I noticed on these piston rods that I have never come across, I've never seen them machined here. It's a really weird spot to me to machine. If we were balancing them, it would make more sense to balance off the top or the bottom, not in the middle. So it'd be interesting to see what the history is on that. So speaking of balance, they don't have a reputation of being real smooth engines. Well, from what I understand, the factory specs would allow the rod assemblies to be 5 grams out, the pistons to be 5 grams out. The wrist pins were pretty dead on because, well, the wrist pins, as long as you make them the right diameter and the right length, they're going to be the same size, but a casting tends to vary a little more. And then the crankshaft was allowed to be out as well. And from my understanding, when you add all that stack up together, they could be out within spec, out by almost 65 grams. Now, if you don't have any relevance to that, then maybe it doesn't sound so bad. But when we do a rotating assembly, we're trying to get it, the whole rotating mass to be within 1 gram balance. That's a huge difference. Now, our strategy to gain more horsepower on this engine is going to be address the compression ratio issue and cylinder head flow. So get the heads ported, make everything flow more air, higher compression, will run more fuel and air through the engine. That will make more power. And of course, you have to have a camshaft that can deal with all that. So we will make a change here as well. It's kind of nice to see stable shaft rockers. That's helpful when you add any kind of lift to the camshaft. But that's our general plan. I'm still not real sure how we're going to address or need to address the fueling system. I need to understand what the latitude is of the factory computer and injectors. So we'll go from there as we go. So that's our plan to make more horsepower. Now, obviously I got a lot of cleanup to do, and the next time you see these parts, we'll be over at the machine shop. And speaking of shop, get out in the shop, go get your work done. See ya.
I'm watching it going. I need to make up some other bullshit.
First take kills it.
Let's do another one just for the heck of it.